So we're talking about the labor shortage. A lot of employers use this as an opportunity to raise the experience requirements instead of trying to
Yeah.
lower them. From a labor economy perspective, what damage does this experience
Yeah.
inflation do to the long-term labor supply?
Yeah, I really wrote something this year called Danger of the Diamond. It's funny because I got Danger of the Diamond. The idea was actually it's I didn't come up with the term. It was told to me by somebody on a call about cybersecurity. And they were talking about all these young people going into cybersecurity. We have this massive labor shortage of cybersecurity. And I'm like, well, that doesn't compute. How can you have all these people going into it, but have a massive shortage? And like, well, everybody wants experienced people because it's cybersecurity. You don't want some young person who doesn't know. They'd have to be young, right? I mean, you could be switching careers. You could be 80 and switching careers, but you don't have any experience. So in a sense, you're young at that job. Well, no one wants to hire that because there's a risk there. And I was like, well, that's a fascinating idea. So I took a step back and I started thinking about it in general for society. And so when I wrote Danger of the Diamond, it's you're hoping, right? As a researcher, you start off with a hypothesis and you're like, man, I hope this is true because if it's not true, this is going to be a really wasted effort. And I want to really write this paper. And the data did not disappoint. We found out 80% of jobs are looking for somebody with 2 to 7 years experience. I'm sorry, 80% of postings are looking for someone with 2 to 7 years experience. About 10% are looking for a highly experienced person, and only about 10% are looking for somebody entry level. And even then, it can get a little tricky because it may even say like a year, but we were like being a little generous there. And it made me realize just how bad of a strategy that is. It's lazy, first off. Well, I want somebody with a couple years experience because I just want them to come in and hit the ground running. Well, you and everybody else. Okay, but there's a problem with that. Number one, these people, if you start to treat it, we'll go back to sports. This is the free agent rental market. You're not gaining employees, you're renting them at this stage because you're going after the same person everybody else is going after. So if they're chasing a dollar and they're going to get it from you, they're going to chase another dollar from somebody else because that's all it was about. I mean, that's why they're in this thing. They have the experience. That's what they're going for. Also, when you're pursuing a free agent in the free agent market, you have a tendency to overpay them versus what you're paying your incumbent workers. So you can create a very disloyal environment because the people coming in who've not proven themselves, who may not be acculturated, who don't have relationships, and you're paying them better than the people who've been there for several years, perform very, very well, have proven to be a solid part of the culture of the company. I think what also we really wanted to drive home is that if I take somebody, and once again, I've drank my own Kool-Aid. I've brought in people who had no experience, and they weren't all young. In fact, one person in particular had just worked in different jobs, then finished school, came to me right after that, and I hired her. And she didn't really have this experience, but once again, she had the passion and everything. So by taking this person, I was able to mold them very, very specifically. They didn't come in with a lot of preconceptions about work or work environments or what should be expected from a job. I showed them those things and they embraced that and went on and have a very, very good career. So I first-hand experience, like I keep saying this way about acculturation, like getting somebody in and getting them to believe in you and getting them to believe in what you're doing will gain you loyalty. They will forego pay increases or an offer from somewhere else for slightly more money or maybe even a lot of money because they're looking at this as going, real, I really love this and I love who I'm working for. And not just this person, but I love the people I'm around because they're all as fired up as I am. And I think that that's what you miss when you go into the rental market. I'm not saying not to do it, but I think there's a cost element there. There's a loyalty aspect there that I think no one can fully appreciate.